Hi, we're starting the first lesson in the series of sample lessons for different levels. This one is an upper intermediate level about signature. So this is a reading lesson and we are going to pretend that we're in class and I'm going to give you some tasks and we're going to try to do things as we would normally do it if we were at a real lesson. So I expect you to do your own timing and really do the tasks as we move on with the lesson. So today's lesson is about signatures and about handwritings and what they actually mean. And in order for us to test the theory that we're going to read, I'm going to ask you to take a sheet of paper. I don't have a sheet of paper now. I do have a sheet of paper, but I'm going to do it on this whiteboard. It's not going to be too realistic, but we'll just do what we can do. So just write, I look forward to meeting you. And then your signature. I'm not going to put my real signature here, so let's pretend that my name is Jane Smith. So that would be something like this. Okay, so please write it on a sheet of paper or you can use the electronic version, but do not type it because we really need to see what your handwriting looks like. We're going to analyze your handwriting. And before we move on with the lesson, this is what I would like you to do. I would like you to speak to yourself in the thin air, into the thin air, or you can just turn on the recorder in your phone and just say for 2 minutes what you think handwriting says about a person. Do you think the handwriting shows what kind of person you are? Do you think it can be revealing about your personality? I think that handwriting can tell you something about the person. For example, if the person has a very neat handwriting, this probably shows that a person is very organized. And if the handwriting is untidy, it might mean that the person doesn't really pay attention to details, or the person might be a scatterbrain. I don't know. So I think that these are some of the things that you can deduce from a handwriting. Now let's move on. We are going to read a text on handwriting, as I've already said. But first, there are some words that we need to check and make sure we know in order to fulfill the task successfully. Let's have a look at this. Okay, so wishing to do what is right, especially to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly. Now, don't worry if you don't manage to catch everything, because I am going to send you this Quizlet set. So, wishing to do what is right, especially to do one's work or duty well and thoroughly.
Conscientious.
Conscientious.
Conscientious. Conscientious.
So, a conscientious person is a person who really tries to do something really, really well and to do something right.
Conscientious. Immature. Immature.
So if an adult person acts and behaves like a child, we call that person immature.
Immature. Immature.
So the first letters of your name and surname are your initials. So if your name is Jane Smith, that would be JS.
Prominent.
So prominent is important.
Prominent.
We use it in literature and in art, so we can say he is a prominent writer or a prominent artist or a prominent politician.
Well-balanced. Well-balanced.
So a well-balanced person who
Well-balanced.
doesn't swing between the moods, is not happy one moment and then sad the other.
Assertive. Assertive.
So an assertive person speaks with confidence and in a strong way. So if I say, we are going to have a great lesson and we're going to do this and we're gonna have fun and we're gonna learn a lot, I am speaking in an assertive manner.
Separate.
This is an easy one.
Insincere.
Insincere. When you see someone say, oh, that dress looks really nice on you, but you don't really mean it, you're
Insincere.
sincere, insincere.
Vain. Vain.
So when you think that you're really, really good, you're beautiful and smart, it's vain.
Vain.
So vain is not the same as self-confident. You can be self-confident, you can be self-assured, and those are positive things. Vain is more of a negative thing. This word has negative connotation.
Have a tendency to do something. Tend to do something.
So he tends to get angry whenever we talk about this topic. It means that he usually gets, not always, but usually gets angry whenever we talk about that topic.
Arrogant.
So again, this is another negative word, arrogant.
Arrogant.
Like when you really think that you're better than anyone else and you look down.
Legibility. Legibility.
So legibility is how easily you can read something. So you can say that someone's handwriting is absolutely illegible, so you can't read it, you can't understand what is written.
Self-esteem. Self-esteem.
So self-esteem is your the prize, let's say, that you give to yourself. So whether you think you are good or whether you think you're not that good. So self-esteem is how highly you think of yourself.
Easygoing. Easygoing. Bad-tempered.
Yeah, a bad-tempered person is a person who is very easy to make angry.
Bad-tempered. Ambitious. Ambitious.
Now, in Armenian and Russian languages, ambitious often has a negative connotation. It means a bad thing. Whereas in English, it is more neutral, and being ambitious is not a bad thing, to be ambitious and want to be successful and famous and powerful.
Represent. Represent.
So you can say, we represent this company here, I represent my country.
Impulsive.
So here we have the impulsive shopping, when you just go and buy something without giving it much thought, without thinking whether you really need it or not.
Stubborn.
So stubborn, when you're saying, no, this is like this and I'm not going to change my opinion and this is how it's going to be. And again, stubborn has more of a negative connotation.
Possessive. Possessive.
So you can be very possessive of your things. A child can be possessive of their toy. For example, they might not want to share their toys. They're being possessive. and your boyfriend or a friend can be very possessive, so they might not be willing you to communicate or spend time with other people.
Imply. Imply.
It can also be show, so we can say this handwriting implies that this person is blah blah blah.
Loyal.
We have loyal, we also have faithful.
Reserved.
Reserved is not a bad word. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't have a negative connotation. He is very reserved, so it thinks he is quiet, he keeps his thought to himself, but it doesn't mean that the person is insecure or shy or lacks self-confidence. It just means the person doesn't like to share.
Lack something, have a lack of something.
So you can say there's a lack of support. I felt the lack of support. There is a lack of money. There's lack of resources, or we can say they lack the necessary resources to fulfill the project.
Open-minded. Open-minded. Cheerful. Cheerful.
Okay, so as I said, I will post this word so you can go over them again. Make sure you learn them before you start with the text. Now let's have a look at the text. Again, I am going to share it with you. What you need to do now is to go over the text quickly. You have just 3 minutes to go over the text and see whether this text would be interesting for professionals, whether it would be interesting for children. So basically, just go over the text quickly in just 3 minutes and decide who this text would be interesting for. Who would be interested in reading this text? 3 minutes, read this text, decide who would like to read it. Again, I'm going to send this image so you can zoom in, you can adapt it, and you can read it at your leisure time. So if you haven't started reading yet, please listen to me. If you have started reading it, just pause this video and then you will come back and hear what I'm saying here. There is a specific reason for why we do not normally ask our students to read the entire text by heart or read and translate it. That's because we want our students to develop specific reading sub-skills such as skimming and scanning and reading for detail. And it is in real life situations as well as during a language examination such as TOEFL or IELTS, it is very important to be able to go over the text quickly and just get the main information rather than every single detail. And one hint, one little trick for how you can do that, how you can get the gist, the main idea of the text without reading every single word, is just reading the first and last sentence in each paragraph. Okay, now get down to your reading, 3 minutes to do it. I'm not going to keep the time now, but you just pause the video here, spend 3 minutes on doing the task, and then we'll get back. Okay, now let's get back, and this time you need to look at these signatures. This is supposed to be A, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is E, and this is F. So you need to look at all the signature get back to the text, see what the text says about different characteristics of handwriting or a signature, and decide which person from these, A, B, C, D, E, or F, which person meets the statements. For example, has had no separation between their public and private self, and was not very assertive. So again, if you are preparing for an international exam, another tip that I would give you is not reading the text and then answering the questions, but rather just skimming the text, just going quickly over it, getting the gist, understanding the main idea, then going to the questions and trying to find the answer to each question. Let's do the first one together. Someone has had no separation between their public and private self, and this was not very assertive. Let's try and find it in the text. Public, we are going to scan for keywords. So the keywords would be public, private self, assertive. Let's try and find public and private self. So let's have a look at this. So it says, oops, if your first name here, hello, okay, if your first name is more prominent in your signature, this implies that you have positive feelings about your childhood, and that your private self is more important to you than your public self. If your surname is more prominent, this means that your public self is more important to you. The more space there is between your name and surname, the more you wish to keep your public and private self separate. So, if it says no separation between their public and private self, we need to find a person whose name and surname go together. I would say that that is E, because I don't see there is that's Tom something, and we don't see a big gap between the name and the surname. Now let's look for the word assertive. Again, sometimes there might be synonyms, so it can be self-confident or strong rather than assertive, but let's try and find the word assertive. Shouldn't have tried to write on the text. Didn't really work. I'm just used to being able to do it in Zoom. Next time I'll do it in Zoom. Sorry about this. Right. Okay, there we go. So let's try and find the word assertive. The more illegible your signature is, the less assertive you are as a person, and the more you tend to avoid conflict. So it's tone something. So this would be quiet, assertive. Of course, Jack Nicholson is very assertive that there is a separation between public and private self. So Oliver something. So I would say that the answer is E. Now please take 8 minutes to do the second task, answering all the questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you do this with a friend, which I highly recommend, because group work really makes studying much more fun and more efficient. So I would recommend just finding someone and doing this together. So if you're together, I would ask you to discuss this and help each other find the answers in the text. If not, just do it on your own. So again, answer the questions from 1 to 6, find the answers in the text, look at all the signatures, try to find the answers. Sometimes there might be more than one correct answer, and yeah, just work together and find the answer. So I'm giving you 8 minutes to do this. Please time yourself. Try to do it in 8 minutes. If you finish it earlier than that, awesome. Get back to the video. If not, it's okay to spend a bit more time on that. Now, we are going to go back to those texts that we have written. And we are going to analyze this according to what we've read. So see here, we see in my imaginary made-up signature, Jane Smith, that I have represented my first name with just the initial letter, but my surname in full, which will indicate that my public self is more important than my private self, and they go together, so there is no big separation between my public and private self. It's more or less legible, which means that I am quite assertive, and there are some more things that you can analyze and you can deduce from my signature based on the text. So please again analyze your signature. If you're lucky to work with a friend, discuss it with a friend, analyze each other's signatures and see whether the other person agrees with your statements. If not, just analyze your own signature based on the text and try to see how close to the reality it is. I would highly recommend recording your answer, making a video, or just recording yourself. It would be fun if you could record your answers and maybe post in your stories on social media, on Facebook or on Instagram, and tag Study for Success there. This would be a lot of fun. So you can just mention Study for Success and add a hashtag, learn English with Study for Success or something. By the way, just I'm very open to any suggestions and any ideas for hashtags that we could have with this. So yeah, just make a video or record your answers. Keep it to yourself if you don't feel comfortable sharing it. If you do feel comfortable sharing it, just make a story and tag Study for Success. This is all for today's lesson. I will provide all the supporting resources, the Quizlet set, the image, so you can have a look at it yourself and use it more appropriately and in a way that is more convenient and comfortable for you. And I will also try to provide you with the correct answers to the task too. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you in our next lesson.